Welcome to a football show Tuesday edition. That is Paul Kuharsky and Braden Gall, and we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I'm about 70% PK, if that, but 70% is good enough to talk about canceling workouts. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I'm 100%. So I've got that going for me.
I'm glad. Yes. My rib cage is sore. My back is sore. I had the food poisoning yesterday. You all know what the details are of that. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Didn't even get to watch the basketball game last night. I was in such rough shape. So I'm hydrated. I'm on medication. We'll see what happens today. So lots of stuff to discuss. First and foremost, the tickets to our Sinkers Beverages charity draft party, watch party on Thursday nights, and the Q&A on Saturday night with all the great 440 personalities. Those links to purchase those tickets, I know a few of them already been sold already. There's limited space and opportunity on Thursday night. We could go a little bit bigger on Saturday night if we need to, but all the tickets, the links there for purchasing are in the show notes and on YouTube, the podcast app, and of course in the comments section as well. Trevor already jumping into the comments as well. Good to see you. So lots of stuff about the draft. If you have any questions, please reach out. We'll give you all the information you need to know. The Tennessee Titans decided to turn over every stone and then cancel their private workout with Colorado players. We'll get into that. There's a comparison, of course, going around with Cam Ward about Steve McNair, and I just wanted to know, talk through that comparison, in your opinion, PK, and see if that's, like, where's there truth in that comparison? Is it just because Steve McNair was a black quarterback who saved the Tennessee Titans franchise, and that's why they're doing it? Or are there actual legitimate things that are similar between the two players? So we'll get into that as well. Some of the questions about Cam Ward in the pocket and outside of the pocket. Taylor Zarzour, congratulations to Taylor Zarzour, a guy I've known for almost 15 years, is now the play-by-play man for your Tennessee Titans radio broadcast. And a good story by you, PK, on paulkuharsky.com about ticket sales in the new stadium, which I feel like is something you and I have been telling the fans for a long time, that the football does not connect to the stadium. And that is very clear based on the ticket sales currently. All right, so Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Again, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue is going to cater our draft party on Thursday and on Saturday. Sinkers Beverages is going to host that draft party, and every single penny will go to the Our Kids Foundation, which is a fantastic gold standard charity here in Nashville that treats sexually abused children. Is one of the biggest clinics of its kind in America. It is some of the most amazing people you've ever been around. It's two good small local businesses supporting a good local charity, and so we want you guys to support them as well and have a good time. And PK, we may have, on next Monday's episode, we may have 2 tickets to give away, correct?
Yes. One of our diehard followers is not from the Nashville area and has graciously bought a pair and given them to us to basically do with as we will. So we will decide how to distribute those and do so. So stay tuned.
And I believe, if I'm not wrong, it's tickets to both nights. So I believe, or maybe it's just Saturday night. Maybe it's just the Saturday night one.
I think it's just Saturday night, but I need to look more closely.
All right, we'll double check on that since we planned all of this. Okay, so I want to talk the Colorado thing. I don't think it's that big of a deal in and of itself that the Tennessee Titans decided not to do the pro day private workout with the Colorado players. They went to the pro day, of course. They did send, according to you on Twitter, they did send their social media and their production team. Shout out to all those guys. They do a lot of work, got men and women. And they were there shooting all kinds of cool video and stuff as well. What do you make of the canceling of the private workout after telling us every single time we talk to them for weeks that they're going to turn over every single rock? Big deal? Not a big deal?
An annoying deal, I think. I mean, they really want everybody to buy into the fact that they're going to see the process through all the way to the end. Such a big decision, not going to jump to any conclusions, need to see every bit of intel. And then they get to April 4th, I think it is. And at the end of April 4th, they cancel April 9th. Which would have been tomorrow. April 9th is, in fact, tomorrow. But the plans would have been tomorrow to see Sanders and Hunter in Boulder individually. and to have their coaches on the field with those guys and to run them through, their stuff with their coaches on the field with them for conceivably an hour, which is what they did with Cam Ward and Coral Gables. And so it just seems kind of like, we say one thing up until Tuesday of the owners' meetings, and 8 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 days later, we decided to do something else. I think it's talking out of both sides of your mouth to a degree.
That I agree with, and maybe their opinions changed, and they already made a decision on Cam. Didn't Cam's private workout happen the same day or the next day?
No, later the same week. I think his pro day was Monday and his workout was Friday.
Oh, there was a 5-day gap. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay,
something like that.
I thought maybe that would be the issue, is that we're having a pro day on a Friday and then we're not doing a private workout until the following Wednesday. People aren't going to fly out to Boulder twice.
They flew to Miami twice.
That's what I thought. Okay, so all right. Well, look, I think could you make the case that they had figured out everything they needed to figure out and that they've decided Shedeur Sanders is not the pick? That's fine. I actually don't think that's crazy, and I think that's fine if you're comparing the two quarterbacks. You don't need the workout. Do you need the workout for Travis Hunter? Do you need it, or do you believe that you've got everything you need? Like quarterback, it feels like it's more important.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't have a problem with them canceling it. I have a problem with all the song and dance before that, where they told us they needed every inspection point, every checkpoint, every touch point. And then they didn't. So I feel like you're a little bit disorganized or you're outright lying.
Does it tell you everything? Does it send a message that Cam is the guy?
Certainly.
Does it continue to cement that?
It certainly indicates that. I mean, it's not inconceivable they see Shedeur or Hunter at the pro day and see all they need to see of them and wrap up some alternate scenario, but everything is pointing to Ward, certainly. And that's, if you're drawing conclusions in the most logical order, Ward is certainly the top conclusion.
D Good says, sounds like sour grapes from PK. What sour grapes about what is my question to D Good. I don't know about that.
Yeah, D Good. When people tell me something and it turns out not to be true, I don't care for it. If you like for people to tell you things that aren't true, and then you consider it sour grapes when you don't like it, yeah, that's sour grapes. I mean, it's so silly to say sour grape. Yeah, when people don't tell me truth, I don't like it. Is that sour grapes, or is that not liking lies?
Well, no, do
we not have a differentiator there? Like, yeah, I like truth.
Your observation could be right that they did lie, talk out of both sides of the mouth, and it also not be a big deal, though, right? It might not be a big deal.
It might not be a big deal, but
right.
I generally, like, everybody says, well, it's lying season, but that doesn't mean you have to like being lied to, and it doesn't mean that they have to lie. Like, they've not revealed anything about the quarterback plan. What reveals something about the quarterback plan actually is them canceling this workout. If they wanted to keep up charades, what keeps up charades is holding the workout. But the idea that just like, let's think this through. If they're not telling the truth here, if they've somehow, like, if they're saying one thing and doing another thing, is that me having sour grapes, or is that them saying one thing and doing another thing? It's just the way we twist this thing is so ridiculous. How you put it on me when they're the ones doing something that's untoward?
So Bob says, what's silly is calling them lazy or liars. How so?
Where did I call them lazy or liars?
Well, you didn't. I mean, you might have used the word.
Your headline says that. Your headline maybe says that they're lazy,
which is not even about
Cam Ward or Steve McNair. We haven't gotten there yet. I didn't say they're lazy. I say they may be lying.
No, I think talking out of both sides of your mouth is fair, but also to make sure.
I think it's lying to say you're going to turn over every stone and then stop short of turning over every stone. That's lying.
Yeah,
if you say it on Tuesday that you're going to do it, and on Friday you cancel the final pieces of that process, you've lied.
I mean, that's just a fact.
I'm sorry if that's too straightforward for you, and you need it more dainty for a team that's 3-14 and pledging that they're going to do absolutely everything to get the draft right, and then not doing it. I didn't say they needed to do all of these things. They said it. I would have been content with them not going to Shedeur Sanders' pro day. Because I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the pick if you're taking a quarterback. That's me. I didn't say this stuff. They said it. I wrote it down and tape recorded it and videoed it of them saying it.
Brock's incredulous PK is my favorite PK. Brock says, are they not allowed to change their minds based off new information? Here's the problem with that. You're absolutely right, Brock. And I think PK agrees with them. My thing is, what are the odds that you say all the things you say on a Tuesday and you do all the Miami stuff with the pro day and all that stuff the week before, and for the whole 6 weeks you've been saying every stone, due diligence, touch point, all this stuff, which again
all the way through the end, and then
the whole thing
down and evaluate.
And then on the very last day, right before you go to Colorado, you say, we're not going to do it. Like because you changed your mind, the odds of that being the moment that they settled on Cam Ward as the pick or a trade or whatever, or not Shedeur, it seems odd that's the time that it actually happened. Again, I don't think this is that big of a deal, but I think you're correct in that you did say, like, here's the thing. If we can poke, and we're about to do, not going to poke holes in Cam Ward per se, but if there are some questions about Cam Ward or some concerns about this part of his game or that part of his game, the goal is to take advantage of every possible moment of information you can gather, which would be a private workout with your other possible pick at number 1, in theory, Travis Hunter, or the other possible pick at quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, to confirm these things. Now, maybe you've already done that, and maybe that happened last week. Maybe that is what happened. But what could hurt? It's like doing I don't know what like doing mock drafts in fantasy sports. It's like, how could another mock draft hurt you? Or is it just more preparation, just more information, just more? I don't think there's a diminishing returns on information around draft picks, if that makes sense.
Go here to Brock Fleming's first comment, the higher one. He says, they've been following the process the entire time, and the one time they don't, we get in a tizzy. Well, are they following the process or aren't they? They're following the process the entire time, period. All right, if they're following the process the whole entire time, that's good. The one time they don't, well, then they're no longer following the process. What is hard about this to comprehend? They're either following the process or they're not following the process. So they were following the process. See how this goes? They were following the process. And we said, oh, okay, they're following the process. Then they stopped following the process. And so that's where my beef is. They said the whole time, we're going to follow this process. Oh, okay. Well, I understand what they're doing. They're going to follow this process. Then they said, we're no longer following the process that we've told you we're going to follow the whole time. So am I in a tizzy? Well, I'm in a tizzy mostly because you people are not comprehending the simple logic here. Let me explain it one more time. They've said from the start they were going to follow this process. I'm yelling because you people aren't getting it. They said they're going to follow this process. Watch my hand movement. We're going to follow this process all the way through. And at the end of this process, we're going to sit down and we're going to make a decision. Then they go to the process all the way here. And then they go, no, we're not following the process anymore. It doesn't follow the logic that they've spelled out to us. They broke the logic chain.
The logic chain has been shattered.
I find that weird because you made a pledge to the process and then you broke the pledge to the process.
D Good says Paul is unnecessarily mad. Paul is not mad at the Titans, just so everyone knows.
I'm mad at you.
He's mad at all of you folks. The Dion effect has Paul crashing out. I love this. I appreciate it. Look, this is the ultimate. This could be the point. It seems unlikely, but it could be the point that the process was concluded. Bob says, like literally right in the middle of this week, which is possible. Seems unlikely, but it's possible. My thinking on this was that we left the combine thinking that Cam Ward was ahead of Shedeur Sanders by a pretty clear margin. But I think someone pointed this out earlier, that the people were into Abdul Carter for this Titans team for a little while there, and they're in Travis Hunter, but they're not being asked about those two anymore. And so whether or not they've made up their mind on Cam Ward versus those other two versus a trade, it's hard to building up value for the number one pick is still the goal at all times. Every single thing they do should be building up value for the number one pick. And if you build it up enough, and this is, I guess, maybe this is my reason that I don't like this. If you build up enough value for the number one pick, that eventually someone gives you an offer that you cannot turn down, be it at 3 or 6 or anywhere, then you need to have done your diligence on every possible option at that next pick, that new slot. And if there's a chance that Shedeur Sanders could be a pick for you at 3 or 6 or 7 or 12, then you do need to turn over every single stone. And that would include having a private workout with Shedeur Sanders. That's where I'm at on this.
I'll go the other way on there. I mean, I don't have a problem with them deciding that they've had enough information on Shedeur Sanders. I just have a problem with them saying constantly through this process they were going to do the whole thing and then not doing the whole thing.
Yeah. Again, there's a little bit of talking out of both sides of your mouth, but again, I'm okay with that to some degree because it's must-lie season, and it's the draft, and it's smoke screens, all this. I'm just my personal opinion is why not take the opportunity to learn more about players that you might be picking Travis Hunter at 3 or Shedeur Sanders at 10 or something. I don't know, but like there's a chance that still could happen. Because I know that you and I are both probably on the 80-20, 90-10. It's going to be Cam Ward at number 1. But you never know what's going to happen when we get close to the first pick of the draft and someone's obsessed with Cam Ward more than we are, or the Titans are, and wants to trade up and get him. And then you need to be ready. You need to be ready with your second plan, your pivot there.
And you also, beyond that, I mean, they may know they're not taking those guys in any scenario or feel like they have enough information, but you fill those files for free agency down the road, for trade down the road. You want those files stuffed with absolutely everything you can get, and you generally don't pass on intersection points. You just don't.
Yeah, and that's exactly correct. That's where I'm at on this. Why turn it down? If you've got a chance to do it, you only have so many of them. Why turn it down? Okay. The comparison to Steve McNair, I understand why it's happening. I understand why it's a thing. I understand it's not just like media folks here in Nashville. There's some professional scouts out there that have drawn the comparison as well. And it's not that there's not some element of truth to it where you see the type of extending of the play and sort of the leadership qualities where he's just a fiery guy who's just ready to roll. I personally, when I first saw it, PK, it felt very lazy to me to see this starting to permeate into the conversation. I'm like, all right, we've reached this point of the draft where we're done talking about all the things that Cam Ward can and can't do. Now we've got to come up with a new angle here. And Steve McNair, well, he was a quarterback who was drafted in the first round in the top 5, and he saved the franchise, and he stepped in, and they have some similarities. It seems very lazy to me. Now, when you go back and you watch some film and you watch some tape and you watch some highlights, occasionally you can see shades of Steve McNair. That doesn't mean that he's the same player, the same type of player, going to be the same player, any of that stuff. Where are you at on the Steve McNair comparison? Is that lazy? Is it fair? Where are you at on that?
Well, I don't think it's out of laziness that it came. I think there are a couple of Cam Ward plays that look a lot like a couple of Steve McNair plays, particularly the second to last play of the Super Bowl where McNair got away from Kevin Carter, had a hand on the ground, came back to balance, ran forward, made a throw across his body. I can't remember if it was Dyson or Wycheck that was the receiver on that play, but that got them. I think so too. That got them in position for the final play where Dyson came up a yard short of the touchdown that with a made extra point would have tied the game, not won the game, as many people have come in the Titans mythology to say. And so you watch that play of Cam Ward and you run it side by side with the play of Steve McNair, and you're like, wow, that looks a lot alike. Now to jump from, wow, he looks like the next to jump to, wow, he looks like the next Steve McNair is pretty big jump. I think you and I agree. He's not the same sort of rugged bulldozing individual that Steve McNair was. And I think I hope he doesn't hear these things and take off with them, because I think while he can extend some plays beautifully, he's also got a little bit of a propensity to circle backwards deep into the backfield that he's just not going to get away with in the NFL. That's going to result in an occasional 18-yard sack and 2nd and 28 or 3rd and 28 is death in the NFL, and trouble for your defense after a punt.
I think we do. I think everybody does this, whether it's media, whether it's scouts. I think the media and the fans are more guilty of this because we're not sort of like trained behind the scenes NFL personnel people. But, you get a white slot receiver, it's going to be another white slot receiver you're going to compare him to. A white running back is going to be a white running back you're going to compare him to. Like, it just, we take these sort of simplistic similarities and we just, that's the comparison because they're the same height or because they're the, simple stuff, right? Same weight. Maybe it's a short linebacker or a real tall, skinny pass rusher. Like, you get the same comps all the time for pretty lazy reasons, I think, from again, mostly fans and media, because we're not trained professionals. But Steve McNair, there was a thing about Steve McNair that was just a different generation of football player. Like, it was just a different time, a different type of football, a different era, and he had those things. Cam has a lot of the leadership qualities, but I think they're very different personality types to some degree. And I mean, you were around Steve, I was not, but like he had a certain, I don't know what the right word is, like not toughness, but just this next level of competitive, like physicality that I don't think Cam has. It doesn't make him any less competitive. I think Cam's a better pure thrower of the football. I think his arm is better. I think he's got a tighter spiral and a smoother, way smoother delivery. He's not nearly the athlete that Steve McNair was. I don't think there's a lot of aura is a good word, Coach Wills. Cam Ward has a lot of the competitive spirit stuff that Steve has. He's got a little bit of the same style, but like just I don't know. I don't see it. It seems pretty lazy to me, and I also think it's unfair to Cam or any player to take the one guy that is mythologized for a variety of reasons in this particular fan base and all of a sudden put all of that on him. Like, that was never the case with Marcus Mariota. Like, that was never the case with Jake Locker. That was never the case with any of those players. And Jake Locker, frankly, might have played a little bit more like Steve McNair than Cam Ward did, the way he ran around like crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it's taken off, this comparison. So that's good, but it has crept in a little bit. And I don't think it's super accurate. I would agree with you about Locker in terms of more putting his shoulder down. Not the Cam Ward. He's unwilling to put his shoulder down. It's just not the first thing he will do. And McNair at the end, when you looked at his career going back, it was fair to define him with toughness and clutchness at the big moments, being really at the lead of description of him. You wouldn't have talked about anything necessarily mechanical or anything like that. I think Ward's ability maybe to get the ball out quickly in a variety of ways is different.
Their throwing motion is nothing alike.
No. And so, so I would end it there, because that's the number one thing I'm looking at in a quarterback is how's he throw it.
Wait, that's the important part of playing quarterback. Because I agree. Like, this is why Mahomes, I think the Mahomes-Rodgers comp is the one that's missed out on all the time, because I think Mahomes is Aaron Rodgers. And because they play exactly the same way, off platform, across the body, better athletically than you think they are, about the same size. Like, they just are they have the same exact sort of mentality, skill set, talent, etc. And I like Cam Ward to be here's this might be a crazy thing to say, because some of you in the comments have said this about Steve not being ready right away, drafted, sits 3 years behind somebody. That has happened. Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith 1 year. You had Jordan Love sit behind Rodgers for a couple of years. But it's still rare now. Is it possible that Cam Ward at number 1 in 2025 has to be better than Steve McNair was? Is that even a fair thing to? Does that question make sense?
Upon arrival in the NFL?
I think a rival and in general. Does it in 2025? If you're taking somebody number 1, does that mean they need to be better than what Steve McNair was for the majority of his career, or is that not? Am I underselling what McNair?
I don't know. I don't know about for the majority of his career. He's got to be better arriving in the NFL. I mean, there's no Alcorn State comparison coming in now, because you go from Alcorn State. We can't compare it to Incarnate Word, but you kind of can compare it to Incarnate Word, because you don't stay at Alcorn State, right? Who's coming into the league from Alcorn State? You go from I guess you come in from Liberty if you're Malik Willis. Again, not the same, but the lower level.
I mean, Josh
NFL,
Allen,
but you transfer to, but it's rare, right? Most of these guys, if they start somewhere smaller, they wind up somewhere bigger because of the availability of the transfer portal and the desire to climb to a place from which you can get a better NFL start. And Steve McNair knew in that day and age that you had a chance to go from Alcorn State into an NFL situation where somebody could bring you along slowly. Yeah. I don't know that anybody would look at that situation and say that's the path for me to the NFL now.
Yeah. Jason says, I don't know the perfect comparison, but if you had a list of 10 Cam Ward comps, McNair would probably be in that bucket as close as Baker Mayfield for sure. And that part I don't necessarily disagree with. If you had to come up with 10 names, Steve McNair belongs in the list. What I'm trying to caution behind, and what I'm actually asking is it fair? And they actually do have some similarities, or is it just like, hey, this is a quarterback for the Titans? Because I think that's what happens a lot of time when we try to draw comparisons, is that we fall on like one or two things that are the same or similar, and it just sort of like lends itself to a sort of an unfair comparison. But I'm willing to be convinced on this, and I do think Cam Ward should be ready to go day one as a number 1 overall pick. And frankly, if he is the pick, which it sounds like you and I both think that he is, I mean, they're asking him to be the starter on day one. This is not a sit behind Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle, Will Levis situation. This is, we're going to have 4 guys in camp. They're going to compete. We're going to keep 2, and Cam Ward's the starter. That's it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the Baker Mayfield comparison, I mean, some of it may be stylistic, but a lot of it is also production. We've kind of found a line there where Mayfield as a number 1 pick, while there was a scramble there at the end of Cleveland, we're looking at what he's produced. So his first 2 years in Cleveland were pretty good for a new guy on a bad team. Then his 3rd year was a dip. Then things went to crap, and he was left in a bad 4th year, and then a scramble where he moved around, and then he got to the Bucs and settled down. But his overall body of work, and certainly what he's become now, he became. You found him as kind of a line to say, is this good enough for first round, for number 1 pick? And we both agreed. And I was in a conversation on subbing on Robbie and Rex Road on Tuesday morning, where we debated that further. Is that a good enough line? I think it absolutely is.
Well, and I mean, you look at his good. He's been productive, and like you take all the when I say is Cam Ward going to be Baker Mayfield quality wise, I am not, to your point, I am not saying that in reference to 3 or 4 teams and like how things ended in Cleveland or whatever. I'm just saying like his average 16 games or 17 games in the NFL, a couple of trips to the playoffs, his production on the field, And yes, I do think there are some size and play style similarities between Baker and Cam Ward. I think the moxie and we had a Hurricanes fan here says he's the best leader they've had since Ed Reed, and that his ceiling is higher than McNair or Deshaun. I think right away it needs to be. If his release is that good and he's that good of an off, like the thing that the Titans have talked about and a lot of people have talked about is how good he is off platform and how good he is rolling out and how good he can do a lot of can he do it in the pocket? That's another question. But if he can do all that stuff, then at number one overall, I think the expectations should be higher than Steve McNair. I think Deshaun's pretty fair. I think his career's also done a weird nosedive for a lot of reasons. So I don't know how to compare him to Deshaun. Deshaun seems like a totally different player to me, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
And Baker Mayfield's best individual season this last season, 4,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, 16 picks. That's on the high end. Titans regimes generally don't like that level of turnover, but if you're offsetting it with 27 touchdowns, did I have that number right? I think that number's low.
Yeah, it's 27, yeah.
So
Joe keeps saying,
and a 71% completion rate.
That's what Callahan wants.
Good.
Yeah, that's what Callahan wants. I think this is also lost in some of this. It says similar size, but McNair was a bruiser at quarterback with a ground and pound team. And by comparison, Ward will be asked to air it out more. I do think that's the 2025, 1996 thing that maybe I'm getting at. 30 years go by, and on a franchise that's trying to evolve itself with a passing head coach and a passing game, that's going to dictate wins and losses. You're drafting a player that's a much better passer right away out of the box. Also, and I've said this, you and I've talked about this, I think the ability to play quarterback right away in the NFL is so much easier today than it was in 1996.
Yeah, I'm wrong on this side. That's 41 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. 41 touchdowns for Mayfield last year. I mean, if you don't take 41 and 16, you take the 16 in exchange for the 41. Yep. Titans haven't been anywhere near 41 touchdowns for a pass.
Yeah. Joe, you keep saying Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray, a much shorter player and a much faster player, more of a jitterbug when he runs. I don't think Cam's got that kind of quick twitch explosiveness. That in that sense, he maybe runs a little bit more like Steve, but I don't think he's trying to do that. I think you think, and this is going to be, I don't mean to say as a full player, but when you think of Mahomes running, I think that's how you need to think of Cam Ward running. He's not a burner.
Version of that, yeah.
He's not a burner. He's not, and I'm not saying he can throw the ball like him or he's accurate like him or he reads the team like him or the defense. I'm just saying when he runs, it's just, he's a little bit more athletic than you think, but just to get himself the throw is what Mahomes always does. So somebody said something about Zarzour. We'll talk about that coming up. Taylor Zarzour here in the comment section. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. Let's see. The Bull says if he's Baker, he'll need longer than Levis got. I don't know if I follow that.
Well, he's saying that they need to be patient with him, but you're misremembering Baker's first 2 years.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
He was 27 and 14 his first year. Now, second year he's 22 and 21, which is bad. Third year, 26 and 8. Touchdown to interception. We're talking
for a Browns team that had not been in the playoffs in like forever, right?
And that third year of 26 and 8, they were 11 and 5.
The articles lately hyping up Ward as gaslighting. I don't hate the guy, but the recent surgence in Ward confidence is bizarre. I think maybe I'm reading into that a little bit in my own head, just thinking, man, how did we go from unsure if this guy would be top 3 last year and top 3 next year to now being clear-cut number 1 bona fide? I think I heard Mike Herndon with you guys comparing, like, hey, the upside of him being one of these generational talents is worth the risk. I would agree, but I don't know when that's ever been a part of his scouting report. His scouting report on this guy's never been like, oh, he's potential the elite upside. I'm not sure I've heard that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, we talked about this last week. You get, closer and closer, and the focus gets narrower and narrower, and you're not talking about last year or thinking about next year. You're thinking about the here and now. Here's the best quarterback prospect, and most people get optimistic and look at the upside, not at the downside, and away you go.
Yeah, and I agree. See, Rich and Jay are having the conversation in the comments, but It's about the quality of the draft class and the Titans just being. And I think I saw this on James Foster's big board, where he has 2 players in the entire class listed as like top 10 players in the draft.
High ones, maybe.
There's 2 high ones, and then and I think that was Hunter and Carter, and then everybody else is a mid first round pick. And I just saw that thinking like, oh, that kind of shows you. And again, it's just based on his like scoring system or whatever. It's not the end all be all, but like, I don't know. We shall see. All right. Do you have anything else you want to add about Cam from the pocket, inside the pocket, running around outside the pocket? I think you kind of covered that to some degree.
We're good there.
Because I think that's the one thing that I'm thinking about now is if you're asking Cam, and I may do this with Nick on Thursday, if you're asking Cam to play a more NFL game, which is less extension, less running around, less improvisation, and more in the pocket, then you start talking about size, you start talking about platform, you start talking about arm angle, you start talking about a lot of other things that we haven't really discussed with him yet, as it pertains to the scouting report and in rhythm, timing, and throwing, and all that kind of stuff, accuracy, processing, etc. So that's the one area that I'm like, okay, I need to do some digging on that. Okay. All right, I got one random question for you. This is a totally random situation here, as it pertains to a scenario in the draft that I wanted to, because I was playing around on the mock drafts over the weekend. You know how we do.
Oh.
And if you trade down a bunch, right? You trade down from 1 to 3, or from 1 to 7, or 1 to 12, or this 1 to 21, or to 18. Like, you trade down a bunch, right? You can stockpile a bunch of picks. In theory, I know that you have to have trading partners to do this. But what if you were to get so many picks by trading back that all of a sudden your first pick is 35, and Jackson Dart's on the board there at 35, and now in a perfect world you've taken Cam Ward, he's good enough, and at 35 Jackson Dart's on the board, and you're willing to use that leverage to get some other team to come up and get him, right? That's what you want. But hypothetically, if you keep trading back, you add a bunch of extra picks. How many players are worth the difference between Cam Ward and Jackson Dart? Is my question here. Like, is it 3 second-round picks? Is it 3 third-round picks? Is it 4? Is it 5? Like, at what point? Doesn't there have to be a point where you're going to battle with, Luther Burden and Josh Connerly and Mike Green and, JTT and Jalen Knoll, and, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, eventually, isn't there a number of players that's going to be better to take the chance on the developing quarterback than it is to take the number 1 pick on the quarterback? I just find myself thinking about this for some reason.
I'm not sure. I get like
if you trade down all the way, if you trade out of the first round and you collect a bunch of stuff, and this is an extreme.
You're saying, would I take 4 players and Jackson Dart over Cam Ward?
What is the gap between Cam Ward and Jackson Dart from talent on the rest of the roster? Because we haven't really talked about that angle yet.
But I don't want Jackson Dart. I would just do the stall and take the quarterbacks that they have and stall till next year. So what's the gap there? I mean, if I could get 4 picks from up, between 12 and 35. Yeah.
So this is where this comes to me, is like, because if you trade back and you get a bunch of extra picks, sure, 1 extra receiver or 1 extra defensive lineman or 1 extra offensive lineman or a safety or a linebacker could make the team better. But taking that extra risky shot at a quarterback who's highly rated but not like the top of the class, the way we've seen the Russell Wilsons and Dak Prescotts and Jalen Hurts and Kirk Cousins, and there's more than you think that are in that second and third round, and going like, you know what, we've got like 6 picks now in the top 100, and we're gonna revamp the roster because that was our goal. We traded back to revamp the roster. Why not use one of them on a guy that maybe he is a starting quarterback? I mean, if Cam Ward has got these questions and we're thinking this and that, like, how many players is the difference? And that's what I find myself asking, is just like, if you gave me a second-round receiver, a second-round edge, a second-round safety, and a starting middle linebacker, like, with Jackson Dart, isn't the team better? And then you let Jackson Dart, and I'm just using Dart as the example here because he's the one that's in that list, but like Jackson Dart and Will Levis battle it out with a bunch of more talent on the roster. I don't know.
It's interesting. I would say,
And sorry, hang on, Pete. Jay. This is not what I'm saying. You're not going to get 4, but I'm saying between 35 and 100, you're getting like 4 extra picks, and probably a first or a second next year if you trade out of the first round.
yeah. So
See, Rich, you're right.
four picks in the top 100 and a first next year. I don't love any of the quarterbacks. I think that the one quarterback that they maybe could like is McCord, who I know you like a lot. Where does he go?
So I've done this too because when you get going on those mock draft simulators, you can have some fun with this. Like I've done the whole like I'm going to take Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord in the 5th and 6th round. You know what I'm saying? Like if McCord is a 4th round pick, then he could be a Kirk Cousins type player. I think you have to be patient with him, but I don't know, man. Maybe it's just the value seeker in me that is constantly looking to make the team better, and that if the team is better, you can always find a guy to make the plays at quarterback, at least for the time being. And if you're just drafting a guy that can just make the plays at quarterback already at number 1, why not draft somebody that can just make the plays around an even better team? But again, Dart has got more upside than I think. Dart's a better prospect than Will Levis at this point, right? Wouldn't you say?
I mean, I haven't thought much about him. I don't like him, but again, I haven't considered it much or watched it much because I don't think it's a possibility.
I haven't either, but again, you do to see Rich's point. Yeah, it's fantasy evaluator mock draft time, and I'm having some fun with this. But I was doing it just going, if you trade back far enough, all of a sudden you got enough picks that you can answer. You can fix all of your problems with a draft pick. You can get a safety. You can get a middle linebacker. You can get 2 edges. You can add a depth piece in the interior of the offensive line. You can get a tight end and a running back late. You can get receiver or 2. And then you're sitting there with still more picks, and you're going, well, why not take the shot on the quarterback? That's a lot cheaper than the guy in the front. So we'll see. Just an idea, because I sent that to JT the other day, and I said, look at this draft. Wouldn't this be like way better than taking Cam Ward? And he was like, no. I was like, okay, all right. All right, Taylor Zarzour is named your radio play-by-play man. I used to work with him on Sirius XM way back in the day. He's really good at golf. I think you're going to enjoy watching him with the Masters this week, as I'm watching I'm watching like from the practice range right now on TV.
You don't watch him, right? You listen to him. He's radio.
Yeah, sure. Well, on I don't know. Is it radio? I think he's on. I think when they rotate around on TV, you get some TV, but they never put the broadcasters on TV. I don't think so. I thought you can. I thought he's on TV some of the weekend, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not sure. I thought he was the radio voice of the majors, so I may be mistaken. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I've not heard a great deal of him. The Jim Nantz endorsement means a great deal to me, and I know Jim Nantz a little bit. I'm really turned off by how many fans are just like, oh, I just wish they got somebody local who I could relate to. It's not called the Nashville Football League. It's called the National Football League. And that you don't want them to look nationally for the best person is disappointing to me, and just so narrow-minded and minor leaguish. I don't see why you wouldn't want to give a national guy who seems to be eminently qualified a chance.
I think he's more of a regional. If I had to put him into a shoebox, that's not meant to be negative.
Doing the golf majors, that's a national job. For
true,
sure.
but he's like he's an SEC network football game caller, so he's been calling SEC games most of his career at ESPN. By the way, all this negative Rory McIlroy talk in the chat, I'm very disappointed by that. Even my wife's rooting for Rory this week, so let's go Rory. I see. Here's the thing: Jim Nantz is good at golf, and somehow has figured out how to do it in the NFL and with college basketball. I think, is it Ian Eagle that did the game last night? Is that he is so much better at that game than I think Jim Nantz is. I think Taylor Zarzour is very good at golf, and what I hope for him is that he is authentically himself when it comes to football. I think he's a little bit robotic on football broadcasts. And if you try to do more and try to be more like Mike Keith, who is anything but robotic on football broadcasts, then I think he'll get in trouble. But I think if he's, as long as he's just himself, I think it's fine. I think they shoehorned in the local angle because he was here for like 6 months, like 2001. But he's from the South. He's a Southern guy. He's an Alabama guy who's worked for SEC Network. I think he's a Southern regional talent, and I think he's going to do. I think
that's not good enough.
Job great.
People they insist he be from Metro Nashville.
Well, I don't know about that. I've
heard
there are none of those.
I've heard a ton of that. Well, there are some of them, but they're underqualified per what the Titans. So they'd rather have a guy who calls high school games in Nashville than a guy who's called the SEC games on ESPN, which I think is not necessarily a broad enough view. Well, I'm not surprised because Nashville tends to have not necessarily a broad enough view on things like this.
Well, that part is true. No, he's eminently qualified. I think he's going to do an excellent job. I think it's it was going to be hard to follow Keith no matter what.
Sure.
And so I think the key is just being authentic, be yourself, and just kind of stay true to, what you're good at. And I think he'll be fine. There's going to be an acclimation period, of course, right? Let's lean on Coach Mack and let Coach Mack be the personality that sort of drives all of that stuff because he's so good at that anyway. Yes, of course, fans are going to complain either way, no matter what. I actually think he's of all the names that were out there, I don't know if there was a better blend of like just a little bit of Nashville with some regional, with a little bit of national golf experience, very polished broadcaster. I think there's, I think that the combination of things that he brings to the table is about as good a job as you could have done without going to hire, a Jim Nantz, Sean McDonough type guy to come in and be an elite network polished guy with every single tool. I don't think you could have done much better than Taylor Zarzour, to be honest with you. So,
and those guys you're listing are not available.
They're not options. And you're not going to go get, and I know a lot of these folks, and they're great, talented people, but you're not going to go get the Western Kentucky play-by-play guy. Like that's not necessarily going to be the thing that you're going to go get. So, okay. Quickly here, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you check out the link in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcast app of choice. Make sure it's also in the chat as well, the links to buy tickets. Thursday night, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. All you can eat, all you can drink. We're going to go live. Stoney Keeley, JT, myself. So it'll be a hot read football show combo. We're going to go live right when the Titans go on the draft, go on the clock. So get there early, and then we're just going to watch the draft the rest of the way. If they trade back, we will push back our live show and, of course, go live at that moment. So that's still a possibility, I suppose. Otherwise, it's going to be a 3.5-hour Cam Ward celebration. So all you can eat, all you can drink at the Track One building in Wedgwood, Houston. Sinkers Beverages. All the money goes to the Our Kids Foundation, catered by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. And then on Saturday night, doors at 7, live Q&A at 8 with a bunch of folks, Nick Suss, Paul Kuharsky, myself. I think JT's going to be there. We might have some other special guests as well, so make sure you come by for that. That's going to be all off the record. Anything you want to ask about the Titans draft class and anything else for that matter, we'll have you covered that night as well. So going to have a lot of fun. All the money, the proceeds, every penny, not like here's how we made over costs. Every single penny will go to the Our Kids Foundation here in Nashville, Tennessee, helping children. PK, you wrote a story on your website, paulkuharsky.com, about ticket sales in the building. And it's hard not to so in my my vomity haze yesterday, I don't know why I put on Draft Day with Kevin Costner. It's not a particularly good movie, nor does it represent anything that happens in a draft room. But the owner telling him, "Hey, I need you to make a splash to draft the quarterback," I couldn't help but think I could see Amy saying, "If you guys are torn on a defensive lineman and a quarterback, and you think you're about 50-50, take the guy that could sell a lot of tickets to the new stadium." Turns out that doesn't matter. You don't need to sell a lot of tickets because most of them are already sold.
Well, a lot of people, not a lot, but a few people came and said, well, what a shock that your sources would tell you that sales have gone well. Well, that premium sales, tier 1, they expected to go over a period of maybe 8 or 9 months.
June to February, right?
Yeah. And it went a period of 3 months. So, some people are saying, well, why are they still pressing me to buy this club seat? Well, I'm sure there's still a few club seats that they're trying to sell, but broadly, the club seat sales, which are the most difficult sales, which are the most pricey sales, moved faster than they imagined they could or would, and they were pleasantly surprised. They're very confident in the building selling itself. They're very proud of the building. If you've been through Titan House, I don't know if you did that tour. They did a couple media tours of it. It's a pretty impressive sales pitch. And so the recent failures of this team, 3 bad years and a 3-14 team that got them the number 1 pick, don't appear to be influencing ticket sales as much as many of us imagined that they would. And so they're now in or entering phase 3 of this project. And phase 3 is everything. The terrace level, which is there's one concourse for the upper levels, one concourse where you walk in. It's kind of like Geodis Park. You walk in and you can go up or down from that concourse to the upper level or to the lower upper level. Those tickets are now on sale. And things are tracking very well for them. People are, interested in the other things these tickets give you a chance at. And they seem to be thinking more about the 30-year family memory element of this than, it's not a very good football team right now.
Well, and let's be very honest here. And this, Josh says, are your sources aware of the fan displeasure or oblivious to it and just happy with the ticket sales? So here's the deal, Josh, and again, the big dollar, like those touchdown club suites that are down on the floor, like on the field level, like the prices on those are not for fans. Those are for cool. That's for Oracle. That's for Amazon. That's for, like Bridgestone, like the biggest companies that are willing to spend 5 figures per game on a box is like those seats are not for fans. The 132 suites, not really for fans, casual, normal fans. Those are for all kinds of corporate partnerships and sponsorships that are using them to whether the team wins or not. And I don't like to say this, but those are business agreements. Those are business arrangements for companies that are trying to make money off of impressing clients or a number of other things. My father, we had season tickets to every Titans game in 98, 99, and it's because he worked for Verizon. And because Verizon was taking all their clients to the games. And this is back when it was a new stadium. And I think the upgrades, to your point, how proud they are of the building, like the concessions, the bathrooms, the experience, it is going to be so much better that it's worth some of that increase. I just hope that there's enough for the casual fans that they can afford to sit in the upper decks. But what are we going to do? It's a new stadium. It costs billions of dollars.
But to Josh's question, are they aware of the fan displeasure or oblivious to it and just happy with the ticket sales? I mean, to a degree, it's a split thing. The football people are working on a better football team, and they're not thinking about the stadium. And the stadium people are working on selling seats to games which they hope are played by a better football team, but they've got nothing to do with the drafting and the personnel acquisitions, right, and the players that are going to be on the field in that new football stadium. So they're working on parallel tracks, but they don't cross into each other. So everybody's working towards the same thing. They want to field a better team in a better venue, but they're not talking to each other. They don't do business with each other.
The sales, the especially like the lower tier sales reps, they're not involved in any football. They're just good quality salespeople, which is a totally different skill set than working for the football side of things. The stadium is what is selling, and I do think, even reading your story, I was sitting there going like, this thing is going to be so much better than the old one. Like, it's just the amenities are good. Like, the reason we love Geodis Park, the reason my kids love Geodis Park, my wife loves it, the reason I'm a season ticket holder, is because the building's experience is so great. It's not about necessarily scoring goals. Sure, now that my kids are getting older, they want to see goals and they want to see wins. But for the first 3 years, it was just a great place on a Saturday to go hang out.
It's a great place to hang out. I mean,
Yes.
I only have one major beef with the building is that you can't walk all the way around the place inside because of the premium side stops you from doing that. But outside of that, I think it's a phenomenal building and a phenomenal experience. And I'm not one to be overwhelmed by an experience as opposed to, this is a perfect example. The experience there overwhelms the quality of play to me.
At least the last 3 years. Maybe not this. Maybe they're scoring goals this year, so we'll see. But I agree. It's the concourses are big and new and clean, and the food is better, and the water stations and the bathrooms. Like, it's all about the stuff that makes your experience there better. And that is going to be. I don't think Tennessee Titans fans realize how bad it was or is, I guess, for the next 2 years.
You're getting used to it. So you go to a road game and you see it's better, but you're used to the home game experience, and the home game experience is going to be a completely different thing.
Yeah, just the upper deck concessions experience. That's one of the worst things you can experience in a sporting event in Nashville is the upper deck bathroom and concessions at Nissan Stadium. It's atrocious. All right, Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue Charity Draft Party, 3rd annual, coming up on April 24th and the 26th. That is Thursday and Saturday. Links to buy tickets are all over the place, and we'll start posting those outwardly here soon. But I want to give all you football show fans and Kuharsky fans and Nick Suss fans access to those tickets first. We'll put them out to sort of the public, as it were, probably next week sometime. But otherwise, I think that's about it, PK. Anything you got coming up on the website?
James Foster's going to write tomorrow about things the Titans should avoid in this draft. So that will be interesting. And I've still got more stuff coming that is evolving out of stuff that I gathered at the owners' meetings. So stay tuned. Good stuff.
There you go. Stay tuned, everybody. Do appreciate it. Thank you guys for being flexible with the scheduling this week. I had a brutal day yesterday. I'm better today and back ready to go. So otherwise, thank you guys all for listening. Thank you guys for watching. For PK, I am Braden Gall. We will talk to you guys next time.